Okay, so I'm going to attempt to walk you through the basics of setting up a pretty basic radio station just to get you up and running and playing with all the buttons. I've already created two folders with different types of music, 80s and 90s as an example. So the first thing we're going to do is take a look at the different programs we have. With Station Playlist, it comes with two separate modules, one called Creator and one called Studio. Studio is like your DJ console. It's what your radio personnel would use to interact with the station, and Creator is what your programming manager would use, or your person who manages the music on the station would use. So people behind the scenes to tell the station what songs to play and when, and what commercials to play and everything like that. And if you're a really small radio station, and like this example station, you're all the same person. First thing we're going to need to do is define our station by using Creator. And we have to define a few different things. Station Playlist by default works in 1 hour blocks, and that's how it works for music. Well, that'll come in handy for later. For right now, we got to tell it where our music is, and you can set different categories for music. So we're going to create a new category. I'm going to call it 80s. And you can add notes here if you'd like to, but not necessary. Add a folder. I'm going to add the 80s folder in there. And you can include subfolders, but I don't really have any in there. Hit OK. Same for our 90s. Add a folder. 90s music. Fine. All this is fine. We're going to set this in the general options. We're going to leave it to default, so you can specify different options for these, like song repeat, telling it how long it has to wait before it can play a song again. Artist repeat, how long it can wait till it has to repeat an artist again. But you can specify each category independently, or just leave them at the default, and we'll set it up later for all categories. So we have our two categories set up. Spot groups works the same way as categories, except this is where your commercials would go. So you'd create a new commercial or a new group called ads or something like your spots, and throw all your ads into it, and or a new one for your jingles, for in between the songs, or your sweepers, or anything else you have to play in between the songs. Your produced effects would go in here. We don't really have any for our basic station. I'm not going to demonstrate that right now. This is something we can get to later. Rotations. You definitely need a rotation, and this is going to be kind of like a show or a program. This is how you want your music to be set up. So you're going to tell, okay, I want you to play it in you have your categories here. I want to play an 80s song, followed by a 90s song, another 90s song, another 90s song. Then I want you to play an 80s song. I want you to pick out a song from the 90s category, 90, 90, 80s. And you want to program this is going to be an hour-long rotation. So you want to program until this at least says 60 minutes worth. The approximate time is set to 80, or set to 37 right now. And you want to program at least 60 minutes worth of music. And this is just average of the amount of tracks you have. It's just averaging them out. So if you only program 60 minutes worth, if it picks out a lot of short tracks in that hour, it's going to run out of music. So you're going to want to program at least, I don't know, an hour and 10 minutes worth, or an hour and a half. Doesn't matter. It's just whatever it doesn't use gets cut off at the end of the hour. So you'll get what I'm saying here. If you don't get what I'm saying right now, you'll see what I'm saying in a minute. So play another 90s song, 90s song, 90s song, 80s, 90s, 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 80s, 90s, 90s. So we got about an hour and 18 minutes average of music. That should be more than enough. So we're going to call this our default. This could be our default rotation. Sure. So now we have a rotation called default. So now we need to create a schedule. And the schedule is going to tell it when to play the different rotations. Since we only have one, we're just going to make a schedule called all the time, because it's just going to play this all the time, every single day. Play default. So from 0 in the morning till 23 at night, it's going to play it all day long, our rotation called default. So every hour it's going to start doing with that rotation that we set up. 80s, 90s, 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 80s, 90s, 90s, 90s. So, and you can set up multiple rotations and then have them play in different parts of the hour. Related artists, not going to dig too deep into this right now because we're just going over the basics. Related artists is where you can set up if you have two, like say Phil Collins and Genesis, both basically the same artist. You wouldn't want to, if you don't want a Phil Collins song playing back to back with a Genesis song. For some radio stations, that they're prohibited because of licensing. They can't do that. You would set up artists that are related to each other, so it would know that these are related to each other. So when you set up options for default song repeat, like this is going to tell it how often it can, how often it has to wait before it can replay a song. So we're going to tell it you have to wait at least an hour. If you play a piece of music, you can't play that song again for 60 minutes. Same thing for artists. We can say 30 minutes. So don't play this artist for 30 minutes. Once you play him or her, just wait 30 minutes before you can play another one. And then a title repeat would be for if you have two artists maybe that are remaking the same song. You obviously wouldn't want those playing back to back. That might get kind of annoying. So you could set your title repeat. I'm going to set that to 60 minutes as well. So yeah, this isn't necessary to set this up, but obviously you don't want the same songs playing back to back. If you don't have a lot of music set up for your radio station so far, if you don't have at least, I don't know, 150 tracks or so, or maybe 100 tracks, there's a possibility you might break these rules because you just don't have enough music, which it'll let you know about that. And the next day song repeat protection means, because it handles 1 hour blocks, has 24 of them within the day, and then it creates a new schedule for the next day. So we can tell it not to repeat the next song within 60 minutes of the previous hour. So when it switches to a new playlist, the next day at midnight, it won't repeat any of the previous playlist songs. So that's a good thing to set. And let's see, anything else we need to set? We need to set this to today. So we're going to generate a playlist for today, which is Sunday, October 11th, and it's going to generate a playlist from the beginning of the day all the way to the end. So 1 day's worth, which is perfect. That's what we want. Hit create, and you can look at the log file here. It's 63 of 63 artists used, because we don't really have a lot to choose from yet. 95 of 95 total tracks used, so it used all of our tracks. It doesn't look like it broke any rules. It was able to do everything. It looks like it selections from the 80s track rotate every 5 hours, every 6 hours from this. That's fine. So now that we got one created, we can go to editor, and this shows us our day, which is Sunday, and we can skip to which hour we want. Right now it's 16 o'clock, so let's look at that. So if the station was actually running right now, this is the song that would be playing starting at the top of the hour at 1600. Would start with Whitesnake and then going all the way down throughout the rest of the hour. Now, here's where the fun part comes in. We have a station set up, so let me just demonstrate this here. You have your station set up, so you can open up your station playlist, your DJ console here, your studio program, or studio, just as it's called. And it should automatically load, yep, which it did, our hour of music. Automate, obviously it's going to be in automatic playing, which is good. That's where you want to keep it right now. I'm going to focus on using the automation, and maybe we can go into manual stuff later. I already have all my intros and cue points and everything set for my music. I'm going to show you how to do that now. We're going to exit the studio program. Fine. And go back into Creator. And we're going to load up the track tool for, let's go for our 90s music, load up the track tool. Alright, so we have our track tool loaded up here with all of our music. And that play button doesn't work, I don't know why. We can just load it up this way. What is that? Go to 90s music and let's use, I don't know, what's a good song to use? Is that a good one? Let's do some Tears for Fears. Raoul and the Kings of Spain. I like that song. it's good to like the song for the station that you're working on. Alright, so we'll open that up in the track tool. And I've already got cue point set, cue, overlap, intro, segue, all that's set. So I'm going to delete those so I can show you how to make your own. New, open. So let's open Raoul and the Kings of Spain. Tears for Fears. There. Open. Okay, so now all those have been cleared out. Now we have to set our own. So the first is our cue position, second overlap, intro duration, segue position. And a quick explanation of each. The cue position is where the song is going to start. So if you had something at the beginning of the song that you wouldn't want to play on your radio station, like annoying scratching sound or whatever, sometimes when you get the music from the CDs, some of the previous track is on there. Obviously, you wouldn't want that. If there's talking at the beginning of the song, sometimes they have the long intros. You would want to cut that out. This is just basically telling it where to start the song. So if you set it to 5 seconds, it would start the song 5 seconds in. Overlap. If you this is going to define how much, if you have two songs back to back, how much the song previous to this one can overlap or crossfade into this one. It's good to set it for at least 2.5 seconds or longer, so that the previous song has time to crossfade in. Not completely necessary though, but it's all based on taste and what you like, what sounds good to you, basically. Intro is a big one. This is the one you're going to focus on probably the most. Usually when you are DJing and things like that, you're talking over the beginning of the song. It's called talking up to the post, or oh geez, there's a couple different terms for it, but talking up the song, or start, things like that. I don't know. I'm tired. I'll have to look that up later. You can look up the terminology on Wikipedia if you feel like it. Broadcast terminology. But basically, this is going to be the point you're talking up to the point where the lyrics begin in the song, or where the artist starts singing. Usually, that's the good rule of thumb, is to just set that to where the person starts singing in the song. But there might be another song where it's heavily instrumental in the beginning, and you want that's essential, and you wouldn't want to talk over that, so you would set it at that point. That's going to be the big one we're going to focus on. And then the segue position is the point at which the music can start fading out, or which it'll start into the next song, or basically the end of the song where you're okay with it ending. This software has a file scan feature which will automatically try to guess at the fade in, fade out points for you, and based on how loud they are or how quiet they are at the beginning and end of the song. So with all the tracks loaded that we want to scan, I'm going to hit start, and it's scanned it automatically, and it's automatically found a cue position, overlap duration, and the segue position just by listening to the song and analyzing it. So we can take a listen at what it found and see if it's satisfactory. Let's start with the cue position. This is where the song is going to begin. Pretty good. I like it. It cut out about 0.2 seconds worth of silence in the beginning of the track, and every fraction of a second does matter. It will help your radio station sound better the more precise you can get with these. Overlap duration is set for 11.3, so it looks like it's going to be a very long overlap duration. I trust it for that kind of stuff. I'm going to leave that alone for right now. You can play with that later. And the intros, that's going to be the big one that we're going to want to set. Remember, I told you that's where the lyrics begin in the song. So we're going to hit play. Try to find those lyrics. You can fast forward. There they are. There. We started when he said where there. So I'm going to hit play and then test that out here. I'm pretty good. That looks like it's right where it's at. Let's take it back to 17.5 and see if it sounds any better. I like to set it just a couple fractions of a second before they start singing, just so it gives you a little bit of a buffer in case your audio track here doesn't calculate it properly or whatever. The 17.5 is going to work for me. And let's see what it picked for the end of the song. Pretty good, I can't argue with that. I'll take it. So, everything's all set on that track. We have our intro set, our overlap, our cue point. So that's everything you're going to need to do. Basically load in the rest of your music and spend a few hours going through it. You're going to set these cue points up. I suggest starting with a small batch and maybe hearing what it sounds like, just so you can get the hang of it. I'll go ahead and close that and go back to Creator. And we're going to set this to today. It's very important, to pay attention that you're generating your playlist for the right day. Otherwise, wonder where the heck is that music at. So we're going to make a playlist for today, starting at hour 0 for the entire day. I'm going to hit create. You can go through and see that it didn't really have any problems. It used all the songs, average of 5 hours before it repeats any songs from the 80s category, average of 6 hours before it repeats anything from the 90s category, because I have more music there. Alright, hit OK. Now we can go in and edit that playlist. Right now you could open up Studio and start playing the music in order, just like a music player, and crossfade between tracks and use your cue points, but there's nothing but music in there, so we're gonna jump to the next step, actually, and put some voice tracks in there, and introduce some of the songs to our listeners. So I'm gonna open up Editor, and we're gonna skip to right now when it's 1644, so we'll jump to the 1600. And looks like we have, let's see, Tears for Fears, and then as you see, our repeat protection kept it half an hour away before it played another one. And Whitesnake. I'm going to drag Whitesnake down. I like that song. Let's bring it down to Tears for Fears. Yeah, let's make Crash Test Dummies down here too. We'll do Crash Test Dummies and Tears for Fears at the bottom of the playlist. Like, as you can see, you can drag these around, put them anywhere you want. All kinds of fun stuff you can do here. You can even insert songs if you want to put a song in, or request, if you will. If somebody requested a song, you could pretend somebody requested a song, just put it in here, and then you can introduce it. So all your intro times that you set earlier with your cue points are sitting here. I have 7.4 second intro time on this song, which is good. I like that. I'm going to keep it. So I'm going to select the song I want to ramp up, or talk up, or forward sell, and basically the one I'm going to talk over, which is going to be this one, and I'm going to come out of Tears for Fears and go into Crash Test Dummies. So I'm going to hit record, and it gives me my intro time here, 7.4 seconds going into this track. So think of what you're going to say, and then go ahead and hit record. And this is a great thing, because you're not live. You can always record it again if you screw up, or if somebody walks in, or if somebody instant messages you and it goes bling, which you should have all those sounds turned off. So here we go. Let's see what this sounds like. That was Tears for Fears with Head Over Heels right here on KITS, the best test radio station in existence. Coming up, I've got some Bobby Brown for you, but before that, we're going to get into some Crash Test Dummies with Ellen Reed. This is The Ballad of Peter Pumpkinhead on KITS. I don't hear anything. That's a problem. Let's see, is my microphone on? Oh, my microphone's off. There we go. Audio. Okay, see? I make mistakes too. Delete that. We're going to start over again and have this with real audio. Head Over Heels by Tears for Fears there on KITS, the best test radio station in existence. We're going to get into some Bobby Brown, but first I've got some Ellen Reed with Crash Test Dummies here. This is The Ballad of Peter Pumpkinhead on KITS. Perfect. So 14 seconds long, definitely longer than 7.4. You want to typically make them longer than the intro, so that way it doesn't end before your cue point that you set. It kind of sounds funny. It's not bad if it does, but I don't know. For 35 seconds, it's a long time to talk. You might end that one early, but this one I can easily make 7.4 seconds. So That was 14 seconds long, so the previous song will fade out, and it'll just be me talking for a little bit, and then it will start playing the other song. It's going to match them up perfectly. That's one of the benefits of this. So I like that. I'm going to close it, save it. As you can see right here between Tears for Fears and Crash Test Dummies, we have our voice track. Save the playlist. Excellent. So now with our playlist there, we're going to open up Studio. Studio is automatically going to load today's playlist at the current time we're at. So it's going to try to figure out where we're at in the hour and start playing music there. So let's listen to what it sounds like. Head Over Heels by Tears for Fears there on KITS, the best test radio station in existence. We're going to get into some Bobby Brown, but first I've got some Ellen Reed with Crash Test Dummies here. This is the Ballad of Peter Pumpkinhead on KITS. Let's begin. Okay, you get the basic point, right? So you could keep doing that forever and ever. My only point at the end of the hour, it's going to skip to the next song. Hopefully it doesn't run out of songs. 6:17, yeah, it'd be doing good for here. This is a complete hour for it. But say you had extra tracks at the end of the hour, like these songs here. Once it gets to the last track and it hits 1700, it doesn't matter how many tracks you have afterwards. It's going to jump to the top of the hour here after the hour marker and jump to that song. So keep that in mind if you put any voice tracks there or advertisements or anything. It's not going to play them. It's going to jump to this next one. On the same note, actually, if it runs out of music to play, you're going to get an error here, and it's just going to jump to the next. Should jump to the next song. You can prevent that by going into the options. There's actually what they call TopUp Tracks. They redid their menu. It's somewhere in here, where you can set a folder with TopUp Tracks. Now, that would just be a folder with music in it that it's just going to pick from randomly to top up your hour until it hits the next hour. That's going to be handy to have that top-up track protection going on, just in case you have you run your hour short or something like that. The only thing to remember though with top-up tracks, none of the rules that you set in Creator apply to it. So if it's got the same songs as your regular rotation, there's a chance that it may break those rules and play it within the within that half an hour time frame that we set, or within that hour, or it may, if the same tracks exist in the rotation as the top-up tracks, it may play them back to back. So you want to set, like unique tracks, maybe ones that you've taken out of rotation that you don't usually play or you're not playing anymore, and that way they'll show up, just when you need them in an emergency situation, just to fill in the time. So that's the basics with it. To exit, we have to right-click down here and exit the studio. And we'll close this, and your schedules will not get saved because this is the demo edition, and it also has, because it's the demo, it has limits on how long you can run the station as well, and I think you have 60 days to before you have to reinstall the software, but you can just uninstall and reinstall and start over again, and it'll reset your clock for 60 more days. That's it for right now. We can get into some more advanced stuff if you want to later on. Later.